Join me as I talk with people who express their creativity in ways that can inspire the rest of us to recognize our own creativity. I've known my next guest for literally decades, but this was the first time that we really talked about his creative journey, about his music making, earning a living, and what happens when you follow curiosity instead of a plan. Today, we have a force of nature, Jake Holmes. Hi, Jake.
Hi.
Now, don't dispute that because I have quite a long list of things to prove it.
Oh, okay.
So, Jake is practically a relative at this point, but this is actually the first time we can have a chat about your background and creativity in a way that isn't around a meal or some crazy activity we've done in the past. So I'm just going to give a little bit and then we'll just see what happens from here. So you have been a singer-songwriter, you've written advertising jingles, and I took this line from I have to read this, 2001 online music magazine called Perfect Sound Forever. I don't know if you remember it, but as the intro, it says, how many musicians can claim to have been in a comedy team with Joan Rivers, written a concept album for Frank Sinatra, had one of their songs stolen by Led Zeppelin, and hung out with Nelson Mandela? Only one, and that's you, Jake. And on top of that, you wrote songs for Harry Belafonte, you collaborated with Nina Simone, you wrote a play, your Dangerous Times album threw you into the political arena. And then there's all of that history of your musicianship starting in the 60s, playing with the Yardbirds, being a friend of Jesse Colin Young. I mean, you played at all of the cafe places in the city. The Bitter End, the Village Theater, Cafe A Go-Go, which I remember going to and seeing Richie Havens as the opening act for Fresh Cream back in the day. So what do you make of your past? What do you think of it now? What do you think about the creativity that has permeated pretty much every aspect of your life?
I've always felt that I was creative, but that I didn't have much skill set. Okay, what did I put with this meeting's being recorded? Okay, I'm just gonna make sure I'm seeing myself so that I can make sure that I don't put my head out of the picture. Um, what was I saying?
You
No,
said you didn't think it was
I didn't, I didn't,
talent?
I didn't, no, my creativity, I think, is a sort of off the wall-ish. It's not, and it's not standard. And so for many years, I kind of felt like, how do I say this? I felt like the way that I could hide my lack of creativity was being creative, if that makes any sense to you.
It
Because
doesn't.
a lot of people in the business are trying to make hit songs. And I didn't think that I knew how to do that. So instead of doing that, I just made what I thought was songs that were special because they were unique. And it's what I did in advertising too. The Our clients would call for an ad and they would give us specifics. And we had 5 or 6 people in the office that wrote. And so we would give them all that. And then I would write something completely off the wall.
Sounds like
And
you.
maybe 50% of the time, the advertisers would say, "Oh, that's better than what we wanted," and that was sort of my modus operandi. If that so that's what I'm trying to explain. It's sort of um, so I've always been sort of insecure, like every other human, but especially in the world of creativity, where there's a lot of ego, uh, and mine was huge, but
You?
it was insecure, would be the point, which I think is probably de rigueur for people in my world.
Do you think that's true for most musicians, that they're just throwing it out there and seeing whether it will stick or not, or there's more of
I
a
think a lot of people are
confidence?
following a lot of rules that 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 are there are things you have to follow. I mean, if you want to be a concert violinist, you have to follow pretty strict rules. And if you want to be a star, there are certain rules you have to follow to be a star. I remember at one point I was contemplating my hugely ego days when I remember the day when I was getting a little bit successful and I was going home to my family and my mother and father home. And I was thinking how when we got off the train that they would be celebrating my return. I mean, it was like an ego, thing.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
and it was that memory, that first memory, when I said, now I'm going to get my accolades, and that was, oh boy, looking back, I'm sure you can look back at your stuff and go, oh, why did I? Anyway, um, that was an interesting, you know, thing to have to work through for many, many years.
Do you think that I want to go back to your album that you did, The Dangerous Times? Do you think music still has an important role to play in the political scene that we're now in?
I think it has, but it's not. It's there's very few people who are really doing it. Um, I think definitely it has a role, and it can be very subtle. Sometimes something just can shift somebody's needle who's wavering on the edge of something. Um, so no, I don't think it's not like the '60s where music was really pushing things in political ways, and people were, being hippies. Nowadays,
Yeah.
that's not. It's a different thing.
Are you familiar with Jesse Wells?
Yes, yes,
So he's kind of being labeled the new Bob Dylan.
yeah,
And
yeah.
his music is pretty much all politically oriented. So I'm
Mhm.
curious what you think about what he's sharing right now.
I think it's interesting and necessary. So, but I'm not a fan of his. Not because I wouldn't be if I really paid attention, but I haven't really paid attention to what he does. Um, I'm still back. I'm still back in the '80s. Musically wise, I don't know because I haven't been writing much music for a long time. So,
Yeah. What would you say? I'm particularly interested these days in encouraging people to be more creative and be willing to express what it is that they've usually kept hidden for most of
yeah.
their lives. And I just wondered what your thoughts were about how creativity changes you or changes your perspective on life or yourself for that matter.
I think you could take it and make it into a delicious dessert and say we're all creative. Everybody's creative. And this is a very interesting thing because when I take my dog for a walk, when she poops on the ground, she walks away from it and then she turns around and she goes back and she sniffs it. And I say that that's creativity in a dog. That dog is saying, this scent is going to knock somebody out, one of my dog friends, or I've really done it this time. I don't know what she's thinking, but she's checking it out. And I think in every single person there is creativity. And the idea is to find something that you don't necessarily want to make a living on, or you don't want to do anything, but one thing that you really enjoy making, like what you're doing, or there's millions of ways to be creative, and everybody can choose to do what something that is because I think it's like meditation, it's like concentrating, it's like mindfulness, it's like all those things. It's like listening to music or whatever. All those creative things are they bring you to the to your to the center. of you, and that's so it doesn't, some people would be successful at it. And that was my mistake in a sense that I was trying too hard to be successful. And I think I would have been more successful in what I did. Not that I don't think I did some real good stuff, because I did,
Oh,
but
yes.
I don't think that I don't think I would have made some of the mistakes that I made. Um, and I maybe would have been less successful, I was lucky, I think, because I wasn't. If there was a stadium with 1 million people who were asked to come, who were famous, I would get to the stadium and I wouldn't get in. So, and so that to me is in some ways an accomplishment, because there were a lot of things that I didn't have to deal with, which I think that Taylor Swift, I am I feel terrible for her in some ways, and how you get, and it's the idea also, if you're creative financially, which is another
Mm,
creativity. I mean, the
hmm.
billionaires, they're all creative. They've all figured out ways to make $1 billion, but they've also found a way to pretty much lose not their soul. Like, I don't use that. I don't think that's right, but lose their connectedness to the earth and life and Mother Nature and all the things that those of us who spend a lot of time with just looking around and picking up a leaf and going, oh, I like this leaf. Those, they don't have that. And it's I think that's a sad thing.
So, what do you think it is that being creative really asks us to do? Is it to be more patient? Is it to be more courageous? Is it to just say, I don't care, I'm just going to do it because it's got to come out?
I think the three of the above and more. I think there's all of that. I think maybe the bottom line is just to enjoy it, and to enjoy the struggles that you end up in, because those are the wonderful times when all of a sudden you're struggling with something and you just can't get it, and then I've learned from connections. I don't know if you know connections on the New York Times. It's a puzzle thing, or where you have to figure out the connections between four words.
Uh huh. Uh
Or
huh.
there's four, eight, 12, six. Well, there's four sets of four, and you have to figure out which four belong to each four.
Got it.
I've discovered that you look at it and you can't get any of them, and you just go away and come back in 10 minutes and you look at it and you go, oh, and that's taught me to maybe to reread books that I never used to do, and also to rewatch a movie, or to go over something a couple of more times, to read a poem, put it away, come back to it and read it another, and boy, it make a difference in the way you see things, and you enjoy things. Um,
So, what happens in that space of the time where you look at something, whether it's something you've created or something you're being asked to create, and you just draw a blank, and then that's that time. What happens in that time between I can't get this to you going back and saying, "Oh, this is what it is. What's that?"
this is your mind. Your mind goes away, and this is your mind. You come back. That's really the way I see it. You let go of everything. It's also, as we get more nervous about the fact that we're losing our memories. And I find that I'm trying to remember somebody's name, and the minute I try to find out the person's name, and this is the thing that happens, well, what about that guy who was in that movie? And then the other person who is saying, yeah, what movie was that? Meanwhile, you're both trying so hard. And then, of course, you both let go, and one person in about two
Gets
seconds
there.
comes up with the name. And that to me is a very important thing, because, and I think you deal with that, Gary deals with that, of trying to relax your whole mind and brain and just get down into, down into the quiet, into the quietness, or down into the nothing, or if you want to talk about it. But letting your mind, and I think we, I don't know about you, but I think I've been training my mind to let go of thoughts and
Hmm.
just, don't try to think your way into it. Just try to relax and let your mind bring it to you, you know, if
And
that makes
how does, when you're doing that, do you notice anything particular happening in your body in
Oh, yeah.
terms, like what?
Just let go, and your body lets go. I'm actually right now. I'm I'm practicing that idea of, and when I do an exercise, I count on my fingers, but I don't look. I don't move them or anything. I say, well, there's my little finger. Now my thumb, and those ideas and being in contact that way is really good. Is really a great thing to do.
Do you think in over the years, have you found that ideas come to you fully formed or in fragments or a little of both?
I think mostly they come the hook to talk as a songwriter, the hook comes, or this part, and then all of a sudden, um you've got something, and then or you see a star or something, oh, that's a beautiful, wait a minute, I can, and then you figure out what you can do with it. And that too, I write stuff in a book, and then I'll come back and look at it in a couple of days, and I'll think to myself, "That's brilliant," you know. And
You
and, and
probably is.
that's part. No, I am a big fan of my work. I've been going over some of my old songs, and I'm thinking, "Damn, that's a good song," and that I think that's okay, because I don't need to go out and perform them in front of people anymore, or do that. I can just enjoy the fact that they're there, and then that's great.
What was it like back in the day when you were playing with all of these musicians and you're all together and there's an incredible energy that's generated by being with other musicians who are also in that process of creating. What did that feel like? Did that increase your mind's ability to come up with new ideas? Was it intimidating? What was that like?
I
Is
think you sing all of the above. I remember was improvising with my guitar player Teddy. I don't know if you ever met him.
I
Um,
don't think I
he,
did.
Teddy, here's what I will say: that if anybody deserves credit for having written Dazed and Confused,
Right.
it might be Teddy, because I did come up with the line and the lyric, but he made it, well, he made it a really interesting thing. But anyway, where was I? This is where I get screwed up because I lose my place.
We
Um,
all do. So I
uh,
was talking about what it was like to be in that milieu where,
okay.
got it.
That's why I'm talking about Teddy, because Teddy and I were improvising, and it was so amazing that all of a sudden it was like we got embarrassed. It was like, is this going to turn into some sex thing? Because it was so amazing, and it was so that, and yeah, when everybody is clicking, when everybody is communicating, it's that's I guess that's what you might call a Zen koan.
Right.
And it's like when in zone, when a basketball player is, slam dunking, or when those kind of things. It's that kind of thing. And yes, and the other thing is that I was lucky enough to play with these amazing people. I
Mhm.
mean, I got to play with people that were way famous, more famous than me, and that at the time, and I was in awe, and that also put me in these two places, one where I wasn't good enough, and one where I was good enough to be there. But I could never sort of put those two things together, in a sense, having too much ego and not enough ego, which is, I think, that may be the sign of, well, it's what we call it, ADD. I mean, it is. I mean, most creative people, I think, are ADD, and that's I think it's a good thing to have, is to be ADD.
Do you mean in the sense of musicians or creative people just going from one idea to another, one possibility to another?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if when I have a friend, we have coffee together, and we end up. We have to stop because he's thinking of his idea before I can get my idea out, and I'm thinking of my idea before he can get his idea out, and it's that kind of thing, and that has been training. That's being I'm still not good at it, but I've been learning over the years now to not have to take over a party, and just be there maybe a little more, you know.
So there's a different kind of rhythm happening.
Well, I think this Christmas when we were all together, I had a whole new way of looking at you all, every one of you. I saw Gary not as this competitive nature, um, and you were more than just somebody who comes to Christmas. There was a, I really think there was a feeling that when we first met each other, you know,
Mm.
and I let go of that feeling or I pushed that feeling back because it was inappropriate. And in the in our new lives. And this time I had that feeling without that. It
Mm.
was like I could see you as my friend, as somebody that was really and I really liked.
Mm.
And that was happening with everybody. It was happening. Jenny and I had my sister, which I don't know if you, on the people on the thing that
I
say
wouldn't
Jenny,
know.
but my sister, who's one of your best friends, I think. Um, she and I sat down and I was hungry for, she gets up early, so she caught me meditating and there we were sitting together and we had the greatest conversation. It
Mm.
was just one of those. And then I got into a conversation with my son-in-law and Anne and my sister and I think that was and it just everything opened up. And so I think one of the people said, you always point. And it was really wonderful because it was, it was a moment when I could accept that for what it was and say, oh, really? And get help with it and
Yeah.
not have to expound, but just we were all there. And it was really one of the best Christmases I've ever had. And, I could go on and on because it was it was things that I'd been learning but hadn't been applying, if that makes sense, in a certain
Like
way.
what? Because I'm going to give you a little interpretation here. As I'm listening to you, you were in the company of, in that conversation, some very talented, smart, creative people. So, what was it that made your conversation as deep and rewarding as it was? And the reason I ask that is because I think that when we start talking about creativity and daring to express yourself in a way that really puts you out there in the world
Mhm.
to one extent or another, that there's got to be, as you were saying earlier, there's got to be space for the dialogue to happen.
Mhm.
So, what do you think it was that made that conversation with these other very talented, creative, smart, brilliant people possible?
What made it possible?
Yeah,
Because, well, if you take a band, one guy plays the guitar, one guy plays the bass, one guy plays the drums, and one guy sings. I mean, we're talking philosophical,
yeah, yeah,
but okay, you have four guys. Each of them has a job to do to contribute to that band.
yeah,
And if that meeting of those creative people is in that sense, maybe four people who sing. One's a bass, one's a tenor, one's an alto, one's a soprano. But everybody has their own expertise and insights. And once you get together with people and you appreciate that they have as equal insight as you have about maybe not the same thing, but something else, and we're all contributing. And
yeah.
when you're feeling that way, and you're also listening because you have to. If we're talking, we're going to play in time, you got to listen.
Yeah.
Um, so if you can combine the listening and the appreciation of the other person's talent,
Mm.
you have a great band, If I'm being metaphorical here, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think your point is well taken, is that, and what I'm hearing in it is that, for instance, if I'm interested in exploring my own creativity, which is to say, okay, what's in me that wants to come out, is that I gain so much from listening to people who are already doing that.
Hmm.
But
Mm,
if I'm just, and maybe you're talking about that in terms of ego, that if I'm in, very egotistical, how am I going to look? How is it going to sound? Will anybody like it? I can't hear anybody else as well.
that's right. That's the hard part. And that's what I've been struggling with the last maybe, I don't know, 30 years. Um, I started 30 years ago, I think, finally sort of waking up.
Mm.
And not in the terms of necessarily Sam Harris, but if you know who he is. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
Um, it's not waking up. It's just more like it's a line you cross where you don't have to prove yourself the way you used to think you had to prove yourself. Now you have to improve yourself. And
That's a
maybe
good
that's way,
point.
I don't know. Maybe that's the way to look at it. I don't know. But that's
Yeah.
been my struggle, I think. And I'm beginning to think I'm finally making some progress. And Christmas was a very good indication to me of that.
In listening or in being present or all of the above?
Okay, well, here's something that happened. I was sitting quietly, and I took my hand and I put it over my hand, and I had my eyes closed, and it felt like I was putting my hand on Anne's hand,
Ah,
and all of a sudden I realized that I loved myself like I do her,
wow.
and it was like, wow, that was really a big moment for me, and that kind of thing, that those kind of things do happen a lot more for me than they used to. So, um, you know,
Do you that's a pretty powerful moment.
yeah, it was.
Do you think that that kind of, I know this sounds like a hackneyed phrase, self love or self acceptance is necessary if you want to be creative, or whether it's something that occurs over time?
I think creativity leads you there.
Mm.
I think that's part of what it is. And the problem sometimes though is that then you sometimes you want to show off with it. But I've gotten to the place, it embarrassed me first to think I'm listening to some of my old songs and I'm thinking, boy, I really like these songs. Wow, yeah, that lyric is amazing. Wow. But then I stopped and I said, well, yeah. Well, I mean, your other self from back in the day, you're not that guy anymore. You're looking back at this you look at a picture of yourself in a book or something and you say, wow, that's a handsome dude. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you look back at pictures of you and you're going to say, whoa. So that's what I'm saying. So, but you got to level that to where it's not, you're not trying to be a dictator, you know.
Yeah.
And there, I don't have anything else to say about that.
No, I think that, if you were speaking to someone who was just at a point where they've lived a pretty left brain life, maybe there's an accountant or a lawyer or something in business where it's very left brain, and they're just beginning to say, you know what, I've been spending my whole life doing what's expected of me, taking care of other people, and now I want to know what's inside me because this can't be all of it. What would you say to them? How would
It's,
they start?
I would say my thing I think right now would be to say think about what it is you love to do outside of work, and maybe you love to work, and maybe there's something you love to work. Well, put that into doing it for the joy of it. Come to that place and do it for even if it's, if it's, I don't know, playing parcheesi. I don't know, going out and being, there's a wonderful uh, thing about two ping pong players playing ping pong, not just to keep the ball on the table, struggling so hard, to keep it on the table and to try to make it, do it as much, but never try to beat it so badly that the other person can't get it, but badly enough so that they have to work real hard at it. But you know what I'm saying? It's like that. I think that's a great way. It's a great method of learning how uh, to appreciate things. I don't know. I think it is you're sort of leaning in this place, which is use your creativity, use it in some way. I mean, you can do it some ways. It's like saying, um, start to train your eyes to see. Like there's a group of people who go to the museums and they spend 10 minutes in front of a painting and they watch it for 10 minutes and then they
Right.
go away and they talk about it. I mean, and that's using your eyes, and being able to, well, all the stuff.
Be present. Well, not everybody who's listening knows.
I know, that's the problem.
Well, that's why we're sharing this, right?
That's right. And that we could share, I can tell you the same thing for all your, I don't know how many years, but no, but I'll say it maybe in a different way, at my way of saying it, that will open up just a little slice and you get another insight into it. You know what I mean? And you can say something to me from your point of view, and you open up my insight to it, because we're not, we never get it. We just get some of it and then, get some more. And sometimes we forget the some that we lost here and we get this one over here. And then 10 years later, we get two of them. Oh, you know what I mean?
Right, right. That aha moment that happens somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you were to strip away all the stories, all the history, all the output that you've managed to share with so many people all over this, however many years it is, what would you say that creativity has given you personally?
Good question. I don't know. It's given me really the best times. And I'm not talking about the times when I'm performing, but the times when I'm trying to get people to listen to it or anything. It's how many times when I came, I had this idea 2 days ago where I'm outside and so I'm looking up at the sky and my eyes are traveling from star to star. And I'm thinking, wow, how fast am I going? Going star to star. So, but if I get back down on the ground and my feet and my legs, they're terrible. It takes me an hour to get, and that was my idea. So I wrote a poem about that. And going through that and then looking at the poem and thinking, well, how can I write this? And what about this? And then at the end of this whole thing, at the end of the poem, um, I say, well, uh, I'll stay. I was saying, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I'm just going to stay here now and just look up at my universe. And as soon as the dog finishes her business, we'll be there. And that was my ending. And I thought, boy, I love that ending. And that's it. And I can really enjoy that. Being able to take something and create something and kind of like it, you know. and be okay with that too, and not say, "Oh, is anybody going to like it?" I don't.
Yeah.
No, no, I like it, and that's okay. What
It's for
you know?
you.
I mean, how many things back there you take them and you look at and you say, "I remember what you did with taking your little breast things or whatever they. What were they? They were something holders for something.
Oh,
It was
those plastic, yes.
yeah, and everybody
Those,
was trying to throw them away, and
right,
no, no, give me those. I want those. You
right.
know, and that I think in that moment you were having a moment because you were thinking, what am I going to do with that? What's going to happen? Whoa, okay,
Yeah.
and and that's that little tiny thing there, but that's that's it for me. I think. Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings that a friend of mine said to me years ago, and this was in the context of something totally unrelated, was, "What else is possible?" And I think that question, although
Hmm.
it can be rephrased in an infinite number of ways,
Oh yeah, yeah.
is the one
It's almost a
that,
Zen koan.
yes,
Yeah.
what else is possible in my life? What else is possible? Could I write a book? Could I make a painting? Could I write a poem? Could I learn to stand on my head or do yoga? It's just that wanting to push a boundary, explore something, because nobody knows what's in them. And if we're just conduits, if there's just, oops, just stuff coming through us, it's not
Yeah.
limited unless we close ourselves off, I think. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. I don't think there's anything that I could argue about that. I don't particularly want to, but let me look at it. Um, yeah. What else is possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think then that's um, this is funny because this morning I was kind of I was caught between these two things I had to do, and and I was worried that we were going to take too long and I wouldn't get in here on time. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go to this stupid thing. I have to get this passport. Anne's done all the work and I don't really know what's going on. And it was, and I was in one of those, this is, you know, catastrophizing. Okay.
Right.
And, well, so we got there and we met this guy, Johnny. He's an older guy, been born in Beacon. So and he was the nicest man. He
Hmm.
was so nice and sweet, and it was a great experience with him. And I I have realized, and this is it's just wrong, but I love it. Is Anne says sometimes, you're a catastrophizer. Yeah, I am. I do. But I said I was explaining myself, and I said, look, if I all the things that horrible things that seem to happen in my life come as this horrible surprise. All of a sudden, I've had a car accident. And all these things. And, oh my God, I just came down with COVID, whatever. Unexpected. They're always unexpected. So if I expect a catastrophe when I wake up in the morning and I expect one, I'm not going to have one. You see?
Oh, well,
Now
that
that
flies
doesn't
in the
hold.
face of
It
that
doesn't
flies
hold.
in the face of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah, well, there's no self. That's what I'm saying. But I don't seem to be able to do that, and I can't tell you how many times that Ann has said we're going to go to this. We want to go to this thing, and I go, oh, really? Oh, okay. And I get there, and because I was that way, I'm surprised. I'm amazed by it. I can't tell you how many times that's happened that she's done that. And it's because one of the good things about us is that we are very different and we have different modes of operation. And they're both in their own ways are really good. So when they're combined, sometimes it's like great stuff happens, you know.
Right.
She, I didn't want to go to her concert. I didn't want to. It was I wanted to say, Mom, I was tired. I didn't want to do this. But then she said to me, I think you should come. And I was on the edge. I thought maybe if she gave me permission not to come, or just by not saying anything, I might be able to get out of it. So I went, and the first song, I was weeping. It was
Uh,
so beautiful. It was such a wonderful thing, and it was a wonderful concert. And it was supposed to be this big deal, but it couldn't happen. So they did the concert in their rehearsals place for family. And so 90% of the audience was male and
mm.
or children and guys. And it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. So you see, there's those things that we learn when we get my age. We learn about that to look forward to something sometimes can be wrong because you look forward to it and then when you get it and it's like, eh. But when you're resisting and then you just allow yourself to go with the resistance and accept what it is, it's like shock, you're beautiful, wonderful.
So it's surprisingly enough, resistance can actually pave the way to have a new experience because
Yeah,
you're not getting what you expected.
yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, all these things have the other sides too, I mean, I'm
Of
not just
course.
we're dealing in pie in the sky shit.
Right, but still. So, as a final, well, not final,
Oh
but at
no, is it
least for
over?
the for the moment anyway, what would you want to leave people with if they're at that point where they're saying, "There's more, there's more in me. There's more to be expressed. There's more to see about how I live in the world and how the world affects me." What kind of encouragement would you give them?
Well, here's one of the simple ones, is to say, just take some time every day to take a warm bath in yourself.
Okay, say a little bit more about that.
Well, you were talking about body, knowing your body and all that. It's like being able to don't worry about anything happening or nothing happening or anything. Just and it doesn't have to be meditation, doesn't have to be anything. But it's almost like exercising. It's just taking that, I don't know, whatever, how much time you want to spend at it. But if you do it consistently, if you sit in quiet and you just let yourself be quiet, things begin to change. They really do. I mean, I started in the 60s doing stuff, but, then dropped it, didn't do it. But then I went the last 20 years. I've been taking at least,
Taking a lot of baths.
uh,
Taking a lot of baths.
taking a lot of baths. Yeah. And the other thing is get a dog and have to take her out in the morning. That those are good two things to do. Um, you don't have to do it. You have dogs, don't you? Well, you
Two
did.
cats.
What? Oh, two cats, right? Okay. Yeah. That's yeah. Gary's not a dog guy, is he?
He
Oh, you never
was,
had
but
dogs, did you?
I had a dog long ago,
Oh, yeah.
and he's had dogs, but we've pretty much had cats at this point. So we're not taking them out in the morning. We just
You don't have
let
to
them
take
out.
them out. No.
No, but we'd have
But
to
you see
take
that
ourselves out.
yeah, but this she forced me to be up at, because what thing for me was I didn't want to put her on a leash when I walked her. I wanted to give her a place I would go places where she could be on, but I'd have to do
Right.
that early in the morning so that I could let dogs and other people and everything. So I've been forced to do that. And that is, I'm a believer in getting up early. I get pretty much everything done by 10 o'clock. I'm up at 5 and I'm done doing all the stuff. And I can say now, 80% of the time, I'll wake up down. I'll wake up, scared, worried, mortality. What am I going to do about this? This is, oh, no, no, no. By the time I come back from a walk and take a little warm bath of myself and do some other stuff and exercise, take care of the dog, do all that stuff, that all clears up. 80% of the time, at least 50% better.
So you
So
have the rest of the day for ideas to come
I
to
have the
you and
rest of
to,
the day to do stuff that I would like to do, read
yeah,
poetry, write things, maybe write some stuff or not, and do other things and do, you
yeah.
know. But I think the morning is the time when you have to try to get your foot set right in
Mm,
that
yeah,
direction.
yeah,
And
yeah, I do.
you can easily get twisted up.
Totally with you on that. If you don't, you know what they say, if you don't set your destination, who knows where you'll end up?
Yeah, that's true.
Probably not where you
But
want to
still,
end up.
but who knows where you're going to end up after today anyway? So
That,
that's
well,
good.
that's true, but you can pick your direction,
Yeah,
and
well,
that
yeah,
does help.
and you can change it if there's a car coming.
That's right. That's a creative turn of events, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you, Jake.
Well, this has been such fun. It
It's
really
a
has.
treat. It really is a treat.
I feel like there's so many things we should have probably said we didn't.
Well, that'll be the next one.
Okay, we'll do it again sometime.
Thank you.
Well,
And
I give my best to your old man.
thank you so much. And for those of you who are either listening or watching, thank you so much for being with us and stay tuned for the next one. Bye for now.